Hi guys, I'm here today to speak about moving to the UK. Little disclaimer, I live in London, now I live in Kent, but I used to live most of the time in London, so I'm mostly gonna talk about living in London, and it's not gonna mean necessarily that it would be the same experience living in the rest of the UK. It's pretty different, but yeah, it's mostly about London because now we live in Kent, but we used to live in London for the most part. So I am French, my husband is from Brazil, and I am living in the UK since 2016. It's been a little while now, it's almost 10 years, doesn't make me any younger. And I wanted to talk about my experience, if it's a good or a bad thing as a foreigner to move in the UK. We are here with our family, so our two sons were born here. So yeah, I'm gonna talk about how we feel about it and if it's like personally a good experience or not. So basically, we arrived in 2016. I met my husband on Tinder in 2017. It's gonna be 8 years now. Yeah, my plan was not to stay forever. I had my visa to go to join my brother and live in Canada, and then I met my husband just before, so just stayed here really. But I love the UK for many reasons. There are some reasons that make it a bit like hard for us, but mostly we love it here. So yeah, let me tell you, I have my little list here. So basically, I'm gonna speak as a foreigner, but especially as a French person, my experience in France versus my experience in the UK. So for instance, there are a lot of things that I really didn't like in France, and that's why I came first place to avoid all this. So for instance, French people, like everybody knows, they are really judgmental. Like, so was I. I'm really trying not to be as much as I can. I'm really trying to not be too French in my mindset. Hence friendship but friendly. Also, I'm not from Paris, so you know, we are a bit friendlier elsewhere, but some Parisians are great as well. But yeah, like, people would judge everybody without knowing them. Like, you would see someone passing by and you would be like judging the outfit or like the person in general. This is pretty messed up because, like, I always liked, like, for instance, fashion in general, and I always liked to dress the way I wanted, and it's something like people had always something to say about the outfits, or if you dress a bit different, especially if you're not in the capital, and if you're dressing a bit different, like, everybody's gonna look at you and talk about like the way you dress, the way you do your hair, the way you do your makeup or whatnot. So this is something that I appreciate so much in London, especially, is that this is not a thing. Like, you can dress the way you want, you can, like, you know, do your hair, your makeup the way you want. No one cares. Like, you can be yourself. So this is one thing that, you know, you even notice if you come from France just to visit. You're gonna come a weekend over in London, and you know, it's like, people don't look at you. They don't do that here. So yeah, that's something. Also, I feel like people are way more polite, especially than in Paris. But also, I'm from north of France, and like, I feel like here is something else. Like, they would hold the door for you. I mean, that was my experience most of the time. They would help you in the street. They would, like, you know, I feel like they are way more polite and more keen to help a stranger than they would be in France. But fair enough, because in France you also get this thing that I could not take anymore. Is like harassment. Like, you're harassed in the streets. Like, as a woman, you're just like, all day long you have people like trying to talk to you in the street, to follow you, to ask for your number, even if you're not like you know, looking your best or anything. Like they don't care. Like it's not even about the looks anymore. It's like you get harassed all the time. Like if you wear a skirt, or if you wear something shorter, or if you wear a cleavage, or you're gonna get harassed, you're gonna get insulted, or you're gonna get asked for, you know, your number or anything, and if you don't get it, you get insulted. Anyway, it's like something I could not take anymore. And this is not only in Paris, this is everywhere, like in every big city at least. And this is so, just so annoying. So this is not happening at all here. Like this is so respectful for that. Like the UK is so respectful of women, I feel like you don't get, like, maybe it's because I'm getting old as well. But I mean, you don't get harassed at all in here, which is like so nice. So it also brings the subject of safety. I was asking my husband, as a Brazilian, what did he appreciate the most coming to the UK, and he was also talking about the safety. So mainly raising a family, this is something that is super important. Of course, in Brazil, you don't feel like this is the safest country in the world, and this is something that that was really important to him, to have this sense of safety for the family. And yeah, I feel safer as well than in France, to be honest. I mean, than in Paris. I feel safer here. Like I can walk in the streets at night and I won't feel like I have to run home. So yeah, I think that safety is, of course, is not perfect. You have a lot of things going on here as well, but I feel like if you have to compare, you feel safer here as a woman in the UK than I feel personally in France. So yeah, this is one point, the safety. Also, I feel like this is a bit controversial, but I feel like in France there is way more racism than in the UK, or at least, you know, than in London. I mean, people are like maybe more vocal about it in France, I don't know, but I feel like here every religion, every like culture is respected, or at least for the most part. Like I love to see ladies that are able to work in like any public service and can wear the hijab or can wear whatever they want, really, religion wise, and no one cares. And this is something I would love to see in France, but it will never happen, and I find it a bit sad, to be honest. So I feel like this is so important to me, and I feel like this is not, London is not definitely not as racist as France in general, but I feel like even if UK is definitely not perfect, I mean, no place is really, but I feel like France is still worse, which speaks volumes. What I appreciate then in London is like it's very cosmopolitan as well. So you have people, because you know you speak English, which is the first language, you get to meet people from all over the world, and this is just priceless. It's amazing. You get to exchange with different cultures. Like at work, for instance, you're gonna bring dishes from your country, and like it gets like, it's super fun. It's super nice. It's something I love so much. Before coming to live in the UK, I did a manual travel on my own, so I got to meet so many people from all over the world, and this is something I love so much, to exchange and yeah, learn from each other. So this is one of the great points from living in London, especially that at the beginning, in general, you're gonna live with flatmates, and most of the time you're gonna meet people already. The downside, if I may say, is like if you come to the UK to meet English people, London is maybe not the best place, because there is not a lot of English people in London from my generation or the youngest generation. It's easier, I feel, to find a job here in London than in France, at least. And I mean, of course you gotta speak English a minimum, And my husband would have the same feeling, like he came because it was easier to find a job in London than in Brazil. And yeah, I feel like you get, like, you have more chances in general. People would give you a chance way more than they would in France. In France, it's still very academic, like you need to have this and that degree, otherwise they will not even like consider your CV. Here is not like that. I feel like they consider you either way, and they give you the chance to at least have an interview and show what you can do. So yeah, I feel like you have way more chances to do, at doing things that you would dream of, and in France no one would give you the chance. Even if you don't have a degree in the field, you might, like, they might give you the chance. So yeah, that's something I don't think would happen in France. The thing about capitals in general, so I think in Paris is the same, but there is always something to do. Like when you live in London, or here we live in Kent, so it's always something to do as well. It's near London. You get a lot of museums, you get a lot of sightseeing around, you have even hiking sites not far. You have a lot of transport, so you can go anywhere by train or by bus or by tube, according to where you live. But yeah, I feel like it's a great thing. Like you have the sea also not too far, for summertime mainly. But yeah, I feel like there is always something to do, and this is something valuable as well. Like if you have a family like we do, in the countryside in France, it's not like that, definitely. But I guess if you live in the middle of nowhere in the UK, it would probably be the same. But it's more due to the location where we are now. Bad points, if the down points of living in the UK is like, obviously none of us have our family around, which is not great. If you have a family of yours there, we don't have anyone to help with the kids or with anything really, like, and we don't spend as much time as we would like as well with our families. We are really family people, so we love our families so dearly, and it's hard for us. I'm lucky enough that I'm from the north of France, so I can take the Eurostar and see my family way easier than my husband can, even though it's still very expensive to take the Eurostar. Yeah, for him it's way more expensive. And yeah, so we have the chance as well that our families come and visit regularly, some members of the family at least that can afford it. But this is a very, like, bad point of living here. If you are from abroad, it's like, yeah, you have to, and if you're building your family, you have to do everything basically on your own, even though they are helping from a distance. But yeah, it's not the same. So yeah, that's one down point, one bad point. I feel like the health system in France is a bit better than in the UK. To be honest, it's not bad at all in the UK, but I feel like it's very tricky sometimes to have an appointment, especially if you live in London. It's, thankfully, I feel like they are way more reactive when it comes to children, but when it comes to adults, it can take ages, or you have to call. For instance, 8 in the morning, you have to call. You can be on hold for like 40 minutes. And when they take the call, they will be like, oh, there's no more appointments, and you're basically on hold since 8 a.m. So that's really upsetting. It's really tricky sometimes to have appointments. But yeah, I feel like now that we are in Kent, it's a little bit easier, but it's still challenging. So also in France, we have way more things that are refunded. For instance, the dentist, like, it's refunded, like, partly. So we can, like, everybody more or less can afford to go to the dentist. Although here, this is not the case. You need to go private, or I mean, you need to pay for the dentist. So this is like another cost added to the cost of life in general. Like, everything is very expensive. I feel like in France it's getting there as well. I'm not there for so long, but people, my family or my friends that live there are telling me that the same thing is happening. Like, it's very hard to have an appointment, and also cost of life is getting like really, really high. So, but I still feel like the UK is even worse. Everything is so expensive. It's just, for me, this is really the worst point. Everything else I can handle. This is the thing that sometimes make us rethink, should we move, or should we try life somewhere else, just because, yeah, it's very tricky. So yeah, you have no family around, so you have to pay also for childcare, and it can get like very, very expensive. So that's a down point. The one of the downside as well would be the weather, but personally I'm from north of France, so it's pretty much the same. My husband though from Brazil is missing the sun so much, which I can understand. I'm like, I never really had a lot of sun. I still miss it. So yeah, I can imagine how much he must be missing it. But yeah, it can be hard to have so many gray days. To be fair, it's very, for me, it's really a legend. Like, oh, in the UK it rains all the time. I feel like it doesn't rain that much, to be fair. Like, probably people are gonna backlash at me, but I feel like it doesn't rain that much. It's a lot gray, like a lot of cloudy days, but I don't feel like it rains so much. I used to cycle a lot and to cycle to work, and I would not cycle when it was raining. And it was basically an excuse for me, you know, to not take the bicycle and take the transport and rest. And at the end I didn't rest so much because it was not raining that much. Like, or when it was raining like 1 hour, and then I could cycle to go and to come back, so that was not a big issue. So yeah, I don't feel like it rains so much, but it's cloudy. It's a lot cloudy though. So yeah, another thing, like if you're from south, or if you're from like a country where it's sunny most of the time, this can be hard for you. And should we talk about the food? So I'm not like a foodie, but I love food. And I feel like, yeah, people are criticizing a lot the food in the UK, especially as a French person. But personally, I don't eat that much of French cuisine when I lived in France. Like, I would eat a lot of like Italian cuisine, and like not so much like proper French dishes. So yeah, for me, like, you can find, like, it's not like you live in the UK and you're only gonna eat dishes from the UK. Like, you can find pretty much anything, even though I feel like we have more choice in French supermarkets. We have more choice in many things, especially like even the yogurts, the desserts. We are really desserts people, but we have more choice in like the cheeses, etc. But here you can still find almost everything. So yeah, this can be hard if you like very specific stuff, but I mean, I feel like it's okay. You can still manage to cook like whatever you want. Once again, it's going to be expensive if you want like specific products from Brazil or from France, for instance. It's going to be more pricey, but you can manage to find it. So yeah, you can make it work. So yeah, that's about it really. If I would advise to come, I would definitely advise you give it a go, because at the end of the day, I met my husband here. I met so many dear good friends, and my life is here now. So this was positive for me. If you want to come already with your family from France or from another country and settle in the UK, I feel like it's harder. Also because now we are out of Europe, so you have way more administrative things to do to be able to come and settle down. If you're wealthy, or if you're not like middle class and you have more money, definitely I think that's a big yes. For me, the biggest issue is the financial one. So I think, like, yeah, if you can afford it, then it's definitely not a problem, and I think you should give it a go as well. But yeah, that's about it really. It's an amazing country to live in. Like, now we live in Kent, and our neighbors are the loveliest people. Like, we're so lucky. So it's not only about London and people that are open-minded. Here so far we had no problem to this regard, at least. And yeah, so yeah, I feel like it's summarized. I probably forgot a lot of things, so please write it in the comments if you think of anything good or bad about the UK, about your country. But I think like it summarized pretty much my experience, and I think this is why we stay. If we leave one day, it would be like because of the financial part mainly, and maybe because of the lack of sun. But we are happy here for the most part, and yeah, that's it. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask out. I'll be happy to answer. And I hope it helped in your decision if you were thinking about coming to live here. But yeah, that's a nice country. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope we see each other again.